Actor Matthew McConaughey is rumored to be gearing up to join Texas's gubernatorial contest and is already polling ahead of current GOP Governor Greg Abbott. Though he is still mum about whether or not he will run, McConaughey opened up about his views on politics in an interview with the New York Times. Let's listen to some of that.
Are the parties so extreme right now that they're going to walk their way into extinction? I don't know. What I fear is, great nations aren't taken over from the outside. They implode. Civil war. That's the big fear for me, for the country, is this path we're going. It's not constructive. I don't see the way out right now through politics, unless it redefines itself and repurposes itself.
So, but when you're thinking about it, it's because you think you might be able to fix it, or just, someone's got to get in here, or...
It's a good question. No, it's a good question. Because one side is everything I just said. One side of the argument is McConaughey, exactly. That's why you need to go get in there. The other side is, that's a bag of rats, man. Don't touch that with a 10-foot pole. You have another lane. You have another category to have influence and get done things you'd like to get done and help how you think you can help.
Here to discuss this and the state of affairs in Texas is former congressional candidate and political director of Ground Game Texas, Mike Siegel. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Great to be with you.
And so, what are Matthew McConaughey's politics as far as you can tell?
I don't think he has any politics. He's a celebrity. And, by the way, I loved him in Dazed and Confused. I live in the North Austin neighborhood where a lot of it was filmed. And he's a very popular individual. And I've met him personally. He's a nice guy. I love his wife. But he doesn't have any politics. And he's treading extremely carefully right now to prolong this moment of fame and attention to make it seem like he's a serious candidate for governor. But he hasn't said a single thing on policy and what he'd do differently than the current governor. No,
and he also didn't really, in that clip we just played. That was that was a fancy way of saying absolutely nothing. I wonder if this is going to be I'm from Michigan, so there was among right-wing people, conservative people, Republicans, about Kid Rock. What if Kid Rock runs for various things? And then, of course, that didn't happen.
Although Kid Rock's politics are a little bit more
developed. Well,
right?
No, we actually know them, but I don't know that he cares any much more than this.
Right? No, he probably doesn't. How is his flirtation being considered and treated in Texas, Mike?
I would say it's pretty much a sideshow. Right now, the Democrats are waiting for Beto O'Rourke to announce that he's running. And that's the part of the McConaughey conversation that's not being discussed. Is the guy going to run in a primary? Because if he did, he would get destroyed either way, right? He doesn't have a base among Democratic primary voters or Republican primary voters. So really what we seem to be talking about is a spoiler campaign that would likely cinch it for Greg Abbott in the general election. So I think this is just a sideshow because we're waiting for the Democratic candidate to come in. There's a lot to talk about in policy right now. Obviously, we're living under an abortion ban. They're starting to implement these horrible racist voter restrictions and gerrymandered maps. We still haven't fixed what went wrong during the freeze last February, and we're entering another winter. So there's some serious problems to address, and I think right now the media is obsessed with the next shiny object, which is McConaughey, in his drawl, sounding cool and taking up time, really.
Now, a recent study from the group Way to Win argues that Democrats need to invest more in Sunbelt states in order to solidify their position in Congress and the Electoral College. These states, such as Texas, Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia, have become more politically competitive over recent years as they have grown more urbanized and racially diverse. The study goes further and argues that investing in Sunbelt states is crucial to avoiding a midterm blowout, especially following the gains President Trump made in these areas, particularly among Latino men in 2020. Mike, what do you think of this study?
I think Way to Win has it exactly right. We need to build a coalition of Black folks, Latino folks, Asian folks, white progressives, and we need to speak to kitchen table issues. How are Democrats going to really deliver for the people, whether it's energy rebates, expanding Medicaid, providing good jobs, climate jobs, and they've got it exactly right. And it's the opposite of the McConaughey or Matthew Dodd model, where you're essentially appealing to much older Democrats who remember the days of Ann Richards and Bob Bullock, and they think the way to win statewide is with a white moderate. But I'm really on board with Way to Win and not Shanker Osorio. And what they say is these swing voters are not moderate voters. And I think that's a really important insight. These are not people that are just right in the middle politically and they're waiting for someone to be the most moderate, most centrist politician. These are people who are generally not paying attention, who often don't vote in elections, and they're waiting to hear someone articulate a vision of how government will improve their lives. And so to me, that's how we build the broad multiracial coalition is, for example, how did those Georgia senators win? Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff. They told voters in Georgia, ruby red Georgia, Republican stronghold, they said, we're going to send you a $2,000 check and the other side won't. And that delivered Georgia. And we need a similar message in states like Texas to show how Democrats will deliver the material conditions to help people improve their lives and not a lot of this, side talk and kind of poll speak that is too common in Democratic politics.
And Texas Governor Greg Abbott barred all vaccine mandates in the state on Monday. How are people reacting to that?
It's horrible. I mean, this is straight up premeditated murder. I mean, if you look up the definition of homicide in the Texas Penal Code, an intentional act that causes death to another, this is going to kill people. And unfortunately, in Texas right now, we are governed by Republican primary voters. That's who Abbott is appealing to with all this crazy stuff that he's doing. He's trying to make sure that he wins the nomination for the Republican Party for the next gubernatorial race. And these very extreme voters are anti-vaccine, anti-mask, and they're bringing us all into ruin. And so it's very concerning. It's one more thing that motivates us to fight hard. And I think right now people are just anxious that Beto hasn't got into the race yet because we want someone to be fighting hard against Abbott. And we're facing a situation where the election could be as soon as the first Tuesday in March. And so here we are in October, we don't have a Democratic nominee, and I think that's giving a lot of angst to people.
Mike, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
All right, thank you both.
We'll have more Rising right after this.